Ifueko Okauru is our boardroom person. She's got a whole lot. She's a chartered accountant. She's a tax practitioner. And of course, she led the revolutionary change where she was the executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And she's one of the keynote speakers at the ongoing 2022 edition of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. And she's live now to us from our Abuja studios. Good evening to you, madam. It's good to see you. Thanks for making it. We appreciate how tight your schedule really is. So we appreciate making these few minutes to be on the show tonight with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, madam. It's good to see you. I'm going to go straight to business. Nigeria currently talks about the issues of tax revenue, insufficient tax. You led that revolution in the FIRS to what we know today, how you reformed the FIRS between 2014 and 2004 and 2012. What more do you think we need to do, or what else do you think need to change within Nigeria's tax space to make sure that we have enough?
Well, first of all, thanks for that question. The focus being on the tax system. I would say that we need to be really focused on moving to be a more digitized tax system. The journey has started. But that's extremely important in such a way that you harmonize all databases, both at the federal with the state and local governments. So there's really no room to maneuver. And you could actually drop rates because your tax base is all consolidated, harmonized, and you can really identify the number of taxpayers that are compliant. So it helps with data. It helps with statistics. It helps with basically making your projections, and actually helps in reviewing whether or not you should continue with high rates or actually reduce the rate. So that's one. Secondly, is to really significantly reduce the level of leakages in the system, because what happens is that whatever tax to GDP ratios we're quoting right now may not be the actual amount of money that the taxpayers are paying. And so we may actually have a higher tax to GDP ratio if we really account for all the monies that are being paid in terms of taxes, both by individuals and organizations. So it's very important that those leakages are stopped. The system will help, but it's also helpful that we continue to build the capacity of our tax teams. And we also continue to build harmonized teams, again, across federal, state, and local government. Beyond all this is actually to have what I'll call a revenue administration code, particularly at the federal level, so that it's clear, one singular route, to paying revenues or paying taxes or paying charges. Because right now sometimes it feels for the taxpayers that you're basically going to different places to pay your taxes, and you're not quite sure, where the monies are going to. So these are just some of the examples of areas in which we could still improve. But I noted that the Honorable Minister of Finance today at the Economic Summit Group noted that, I think as of September, about 10 trillion has been raised, and they're planning 15 trillion. So there is growth, and but I think we need even significantly more, considering the fact that the country is relying more on non-oil tax revenues, and the oil revenues really haven't come up to steam.
Madam, in terms of the sectors of the economy where you think Nigeria could really harvest more tax, is it more in the formal economy or the informal economy? What are your thoughts?
The truth is we should be harvesting revenues across sectors, both the formal and informal sectors. We should be moving the informal sectors more to the formal sectors with the kinds of policies that we put in place that will encourage people to come forward and voluntarily pay their taxes. And beyond everything else, we need to build trust. Trust is something that, you just have to continually build. Because the more taxpayers trust the system, trust that the revenues they are collecting they can see it, they can feel it, the more they will voluntarily pay. So it's really across board. Everybody should be paying taxes. It's a civic responsibility, it's a social responsibility. It's a license for you to reside in the state that you're contributing to the development of the state.
Nigeria, we seem to have moved around the issue of what you call luxury tax over some time. But do you think we are really started to scratch the surface when you talk about a luxury tax for Nigerians, to see that those who live the luxurious life in Nigeria should pay more?
Well, the tax system should actually be progressive in that regard. But I like to say that we're still at the level of just ensuring that we believe in that tax system. Because what happens is that the higher you charge taxes, the more people, particularly since you don't have the data, you don't have the systems yet, to be able to know those that are really evading or those that are actually avoiding taxes in the true sense. So you need to build those systems. So I'm not one, basically for a luxury tax, because, enforcing it, has been traditionally difficult. Even today, with the tax system that we have, even with the personal income tax that is administered at the state level, just enforcing taxes by those who earn more, it has not been easy. So let's focus on the taxes we have now and improve the level of enforcement. We have the taxes today that we can enforce. We don't want to also create an unnecessary, inflationary environment, or environment where, you actually move people out of the tax net. You want to bring people into the tax net. So I'm for working with the taxes we have, but improving enforcement and improving compliance.
Broadly speaking, what would you say about the state of the economy, about shared prosperity, the key focus, leadership into 2023 and beyond for Nigeria, and how we can have more inclusive growth and people-led growth in Nigeria rather than what we've always had on our hands?
I think you've answered your question by giving the solution. Definitely there's a need for more inclusive growth. There's the need for shared prosperity. But let me say that, and quite a lot was said, today about areas that we needed to look at, because it's really for us to build a cohesive society, a united society that will really, move Nigeria forward in such a way that we all benefit. We need to do it together. We really need to do it together. And in a situation where we have unemployment levels, over 30%, or whatever, I'm not sure I got the rates right. But employment levels are really high. A situation where a few are, satisfied, so to speak, with their income levels and their standards of living, and a majority of people are poor, is not acceptable. Because the truth is, even if you have the few that can afford to live a particular life, you can't have a good standard of living when your neighbor cannot afford to eat. You can't actually, in good conscience, live well. So it's important that that shared prosperity, we all align to it as something that it's a must-have. You can't build walls around your houses and feel that you are safe. You can't be safe. So it's extremely important that we all have a common agreement, an agreement that inclusion is not a debatable issue. It's an important issue. And with the diversity that we have in Nigeria, I think it's important to realize that the more diverse you are, the more complex you have to move everybody together. And so the more you can create a certain baseline where everybody feels a stake in the economy, everybody feels that they're all thought about, they're a part of the prosperity that they hear about. The better for the country, the better for security. And for me, my session was on binding the constraints to, checking what are what's binding constraints to execution. And some of the things that we discussed at that session had to do with ensuring that we all had not just a shared vision, but we had a shared understanding of where we need to be at. And what you've said, and I think what we don't also understand is sometimes we use these words, but the truth of the matter is that these words mean different things to different people. We need to have a common language, a common purpose, a common understanding, and we really don't understand ourselves. we don't understand ourselves. We think we do, but because of the kind of educational system that we pursue, where you go to private schools, they're pursuing a different kind of education. You go to public schools, depending on which state you are in. Some public schools are better than others. The old mantra where we had public schools. I'm a product of a public school system, where scholarships were given. You had, good quality teachers. Now we're struggling to even pay teachers 30,000 naira a month. So we need to really step back, recognize the importance of, making sure everybody has a minimum standard of education across board, every single Nigeria, whether it's up to early childhood education, or it's primary school education, or it's secondary school education. Those are the things that bring inclusion. Inclusion is not only when you become an adult and you want to be on the board table, and you have men and women around the board. That's inclusion as well. But inclusion goes beyond that. It goes to ensuring that there's equal opportunity, there's equal access. And until we get to that point, and that we also agree on the Constitution, and that we all sign up that this is where we all want to go, those are the things that will really drive inclusive growth.
Ifueko Okauru, former Executive Chairman of the FIRS, thank you so much, Madam, for coming in on the show tonight.